All right, so you guys have a handout as well. And on the handout are a couple of these slides because I thought they were pertinent to kind of the greater scheme here, and hoping that I can get some of these points across in a way that is a way that helps you guys understand them the way that I'm understanding them. So just a couple of statements. Obviously, you guys can read them. The electronic collar has been the greatest advancement in dog training equipment since the creation of the leash. I underscored equipment because it's not the most advanced concept. It's not the greatest advancement in theory, but in terms of equipment, if you stack that on top of the leash, there's nothing else that I can think of that comes anywhere close to being able to change dogs' behavior in the same way. But like I said, I mean, if you changed out equipment and put in theory or put in something else like that, there certainly are really, really huge advancements, specifically in marker training and the development of all the conditioning, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, different structures that allow us to train dogs way better. The other thought is that there's no better way to physically communicate with your dog from a distance. It's also physically is also underlined because there are great ways to communicate with your dog from a distance, verbally, through sight. You can do all sorts of things that are great, but physically it gets to be a little bit difficult if you are 300 yards away from your dog and there are trees, bushes, lakes, and streams between you, right? Very difficult to have a physical change on them from a distance. So electronic collars allow us to do that. That answers the question why. And when people ask me, and when people ask my clients, or when people ask other trainers, is it worth it? And why do you have to use that? Oh, my dog's not, he's not that bad. He doesn't need that. Things like that that start the conversation of, well, I use them for a reason, and these are the reasons why, right? And I don't want people to feel like they can't answer that question or that they shouldn't have that conversation. It was like, I'm happy to have that conversation. I have actual answers. I'm not just going to get mad at somebody because they're asking the question. We can talk about it. I have answers. Right? All right, we've got a little bit of lingo. It's not as advanced as some of the other lectures that we did. You'll hear me say the word stim a lot. Stim just refers to any electronic stimulation that the collar is giving. Some people use that. Some people will use the word stim when they mean vibrate or different things like that. And we just want to make sure that when I'm talking about stim, I'm talking about stimulation is going from the collar or going in the collar to the dog, and that you are, hopefully, that you are having control over that by some kind of remote or outside ability. Pressure, you'll hear me use the words pressure a lot, or the word pressure a lot. Pressure refers to any kind of discomfort or stress via a number of different things. Could be spatial proximity, leash tension, social disapproval, or collar stimulation in the current in what we'll be talking about today. If you're not familiar with these other types of pressure, leash pressure is just any type of pressure that the dog feels on the leash and collar specifically. Social disapproval is or a social correction or social pressure. Imagine kind of shaking your fist at the dog and being like, I'm very disappointed in you, right? Which is actually effective for some dogs, and you can kind of get in their face, and there's some old school kind of methods there, and they may be clearer with some dogs, they may be unclear with others, but I think a lot of our dogs, a lot of our own personal pet dogs, we get some of that stuff in there too. And you're like, don't do that, hey, knock it off. And if the dog is actually clearly understands that stuff, it can be a clear form of communication. If you have a really good relationship with the dog, you can absolutely use social disapproval. Some dogs don't give a shit if you are unhappy with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be very unhappy with the dog, and you could be like, that was terrible, that was really bad, and they can just be like, yeah, whatever, I'm good.
That's exactly what I get.
Yeah, you're talking to me? Okay. This is great. Yeah. And that's fine. Some of them just come out of the box a little bit more sensitive to that type of thing. And that comes into breeds and like different specifications on like what kind of breed you have, what kind of genetics your dog has, things like that. So anytime nick, momentary, and tap, that's a really short stimulation. It could be a short burst of stimulation. Typically with the collars that we're using, it's anywhere from a tenth to a quarter of a second. And it's very quick. And constant, longer stimulation. A lot of cases we're using that for negative reinforcement, or we're using it for just a bit of a harsher positive punishment. So we're doing a quick punishment that's a little bit longer than a tap. So with the collars that we use, most of them have a button for nick and a button for constant, so that you can utilize either a really quick correction or a slightly longer one. And I may sometimes use either of them for positive punishment or for negative reinforcement. I go back and forth, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But if I say constant stim, that's what we're talking about. Contact, anytime we're questioning contact or wondering if there is contact, we're talking about are the probes touching my dog's skin? If the probes are not touching my dog's skin, it's highly unlikely that I have a very good connection in terms of my ability to provide stim to the dog. So if there's hair underneath, or there's just an air gap, or some dogs that this might be more common in that dog trainers have to deal with this, because I don't know if anyone has really small dogs here, but with really, really tiny dogs, you can have a problem with contact where, if this is, my dog's neck is just like really tiny little, the collar will be off to the side of it. So there'll just be one probe or one prong that's actually touching the dog, and the collar won't work in that way. So, and different manufacturers have come up with like workarounds for that, where that's like different contact points or rotating the collar this way so that the prongs are vertical, they can go on. Anyway, if you don't have contact, the collar won't work. So that's usually our first piece of criteria, is like making sure that there's contact. Any words that anybody needs to talk about before we move on? No? Good. All right, just a little fun, because I wanted to know more about it when I was researching for this presentation. I wanted to see like what the history of electronic collars was and where they came from and who was creating them. I actually couldn't find, but I've heard people verbally describe electronic collars that were previous to this. And the electronic collars that were previous to this had basically had like a cord and like had a wire, and you'd have to like be near enough to the dog that the wire would provide the stim to the dog, and they weren't remote. So you didn't have the ability to do it at a distance, but you did have the ability to do it give them an electronic correction. So these guys, Dale Lee and Frank Hoover, I don't know if anybody's heard about those people ever, but they actually were mountain lion hunters. So Dale Lee and Frank Hoover were mountain lion hunters. They were running hounds in the mountains, and the problem that they had were these dogs were so cranked up that they would actually try to attack the mountain lion, which is not what typically mountain lion hunters want to do. They want to tree the mountain lion, and then they usually dispatch it in some other manner, whether they're using a firearm or arrows or whatever they're doing, right? So, but the dogs were so cranked up, high drive hunting dogs, that they were actually trying to like bite the mountain lion, and then mountain lion would turn around and smash their dog and either kill the dog or really injure them. It's just get them all torn up. So it's not what they wanted. So they made a collar that they could use. So if their hound was actually trying to attack the mountain lion, they could give them a big correction and stop them. So even in the very, very first usage that I could find, in the world Googles, the greatest situation the earliest situation that I could find, they're trying to keep the dog out of trouble, right? Which is kind of a theme that I'd like to follow through, and that like if you're going to use a dog for jobs like that you ought to do what's in the dog's best interest also, which is to keep them safe from themselves. So they have such overwhelming desire to chase, catch, kill that they're willing to try to climb up a tree and bite a mountain lion, get in a fight, and get all torn up, which is pretty bad for them probably. Those collars, I don't think any of these is actually the picture of any of those collars. However, those collars only had one level for sure. There was just one. They just lit these dogs up, a lot of pressure. So they were using, whatever voltage, amperage, whatever that is. It was a big correction, right? And those collars were capable of doing the things like they used to call them shock collars. They were actually capable of like physically damaging the dog, right? Later, 10 years later or so, the Ability Trainer came out. Had one level, but it was able to be used at like better remote distance. So you could use it through, I guess it's radio waves, and they could have a little bit longer distance where it was working and more reliable, things like that, a little harder use. It took a while between that one and in the 90s, what they started using, right? So somewhere in there, Tritronics, which is like an old collar manufacturer, came out with a collar that had these little plugs. And the little plugs, I wonder, no. All right, I don't have a picture of the plugs. Bummer. Okay. The little plugs were actually like fuses, so they would change the level of stim. But you'd have to go over to the dog. Take the collar off, take the plug out, put a different plug in, and then put it back on if you were going to change the stimulation. So not super helpful for getting your dog not to be collar-wise.
Think about it. The dog is 300 yards away. Oh, wait, let me change the plug. Oh,
right.
Wait, can't get the dog.
Right, well, definitely if you're too low. But I doubt that these collars had much that was on the too low part. I bet you most of these collars were, in terms of strength, were on the much higher end. So I doubt even level 1 is probably a very mild correction, right? So anyway, that was 5 of them. In the 2000s, we got, in like probably late 90s, I think Dogtra came out with their unit that had like tons of levels. And so in the early 2000s, dozens of levels, Dogtras went up to 127. Everybody was like, that's crazy. I still don't understand why it's 127. And then the rheostat technology. Rheostat technology just meaning the ability to twist the knob and have an increased stimulation, like just at your fingertips, so to speak. Now, brand new e-collars, they're totally different than what they were in the beginning in terms of their your ability to vary the stimulation, your ability to correct from a distance, and they've got some different kind of gadgetry associated with them. Some of them have, I don't know if anybody's used like the finger click before, or finger twitch or something like that, which is basically your ability to use like a ring almost that is connected to your remote that's then connected to the collar. So it kind of like does a leap from unit to unit, and then you can utilize the collar without holding the remote in your hand. You have just like a tiny little auxiliary remote, and those, things like that, they haven't caught on like huge. There's some other things. We've got this cool box that allows you to hear when we're giving stimulation to a person or a dog, that you can, everybody can hear, how somebody's using the collar. Those things are cool. There's a couple other features. They've got tones, vibrate, things like that allow it to be better. All sorts of different attachments, tons and tons of different collars. Okay, so what is important one of the things that's important for electronic collar work is making sure that your prerequisites are dialed in. So does your dog know some basic skills that we can utilize for teaching your dog the electronic collar? And the way that I believe the electronic collar should be used is that we want the dog to understand that it is just a tool to achieve other things that we've already worked on. So other behaviors that we've already worked on. So I very, very, very rarely will use the electronic collar to teach a novel behavior. So there's almost no situations where I'm going to use the electronic collar in a place where I haven't created a behavior via food, leash pressure, or other means, right? So I try to create, this is not my method, right? This is kind of, it's been passed down to me. My mentor, Michael Ellis, uses this method basically for electronic collar conditioning, and that's what I use, right? So the prereqs are that we have a positive relationship between the dog and handler. You got to know your dog. The dog has to know you, trust you. Awesome. Got to have fun with them. Can't be like in a situation where the dog doesn't like you and using the e-collar. Don't use it. Not going to work. Get the relationship first. The dog understands the use of leash pressure, likely on a pinch collar, to understand the help of directional pressure, to understand basically cues like I'm going to pull you over there, I'm going to pull you over here, pull you into a sit or a down, pull you backward, things like that. My preference is for the dog to understand come. So if I pull on the leash, that you turn around, come back here, that the dog understands a go away from me. So that could be an on your bed or a touch, right? So it could just be putting your paws on something, or it could be going to your bed. It could be a place command, something like that. So the dog coming to me, going away from me, and back. And usually back is in the heel position. So I put a little bit of pressure backward. My dog understands to go backward. And then we can utilize, and then we can layer over top of that, layer the electronic collar over top of that. Questions on prereqs? Alexis? No? No questions? You sure? Just an eyebrow raise for posterity? Yeah. Got it. Huh?
She has something to say.
Yeah. Did I say something wrong? Are you sure?
Positive. You're like sure.
Okay. All right. All right. So conditioning phase. How do we teach the dog what the collar is? That's the process. The process is teach them what the collar is, not like use the collar to punish the dog, right? Teach them what the collar is. Teach them how to learn from the collar. The collar can be an educational tool, right? So we have to teach them what it is, and you have to do that through this conditioning phase, this conditioning cycle. If you don't use it, then you will, if you don't use this, then you end up in a situation where you're not sure if the dog understands it, right? If I don't know if my dog actually understands it or not, how could I be using it? If the dog's not clear on what the collar is, I shouldn't be using it, just straight up, right? So in terms of what we do in the conditioning phase, this is it. First, you got to fit the collar. We're going to make sure that it's positioned appropriately. I like to put the collar, the way that I like the collar placed is here. I like it between, in this little ditch right here that you'll find on most creatures that have a neck, in my experience. And this little ditch right here, and it, luckily for a lot of dogs, even dogs that have a lot of hair, like German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, things like that, there's a little bit less hair up there. So you go kind of above where this big fluffy neck hair is, and you pull down a bit, and you're right in there. And that allows for us to get more likely contact, as well as being able to like visually see where it is. And I know that it's gonna stay right there. It's gonna get stuck right there. So that's my fitment. I usually tell people, 2 fingers is what you want underneath your strap, to be able to put 2 fingers under your strap, but not necessarily 2 fingers underneath your prongs, because they're gonna be tight. Because remember, in order for it to work, it's got to be touching the skin. So it's going to be tight. That with really hairy, fluffy dogs sometimes is an issue. You're like cranking it down like a, big fluffy German Shepherd or something like that, and it's like, man, this seems really tight. I don't know that I want to do this. And there's a variety of other collar types and things like that you can get. Whereas like yours has a little elastic on it, I think, right? So there's some that have an elastic bungee. There's some that have kind of like a drawstring style on the back. Which, whatever you're using, basically you want to make sure that you're doing it tight enough that you have contact, but not so tight that you're hurting the dog, right? And it also, if your dog never has a collar on that's this tight, and the only time he has a collar on that's super, super tight is when you put the e-collar on, you can really quickly teach them that that's when they're wearing the e-collar. And if your dog is collar-wise, so they know what's going on, like they know when their collar is on, next thing you know, the dog is changing his performance based on if he has a collar on or not. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But finding the level setting, the things that we do for that are basically, I'll take the dog, and we're gonna get to do this. We're gonna get to do a demo for you so you'll see it. But take the dog, put the dog in front, and we just sit there, give them food, make sure they're comfortable, right? I've already had the collar, the dog wearing the collar a little bit. They understand that it's just something that's on them. No big deal. They don't have a real association with it yet. They're eating the food, no big deal. And I start going through my levels. I start at level 1, tap, 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 tap. No, I'm looking for a response in the dog. Level 2, tap, 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 tap. Level 3, tap, 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 right? And the whole time I'm just kind of feeding the dog, and I'd like it to be as neutral as possible when they do feel it. And what I'm looking for is a change of behavior. The change of behavior could be a number of things. Most frequently, it can be a little ear twitch. You'll see the dog kind of twitch their ear. You'll see maybe a little look down where they're just trying to be like, they're like, what was that? You know? I do not want the dog to be showing some kind of pain response in the first time that they feel it. That's not what I'm looking for. I don't want them to like yelp or look, like get scared or get spooked, because that's gonna basically hypersensitize my dog to the collar, which I don't want to do. I just want it to be like, it's neutral, 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 and they're like, what the heck was that? Right? That's the response I'm looking for, not like scared, jump away, nervous, right? And that is usually achievable by just going up slowly, go back down again, be like, not sure if she felt it, did she feel it? Try it again, right? So those things, that takes a little bit of time. There's no reason not to take time to do it, to find it. You'll see, sometimes you'll climb up, and if for some reason I'm like, wow, I got to 25, my dog has not shown any change of behavior. It's likely then that the dog is feeling it and just not showing a behavior, or possibly that you're not getting contact. And maybe we'll, move the collar around, reset it, seat it in here again, and try again. And sometimes I'll go back to that like longer stimulation. So maybe I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna hold it down for half a second instead of the 1/10 of a second, right? To be able to see if my dog actually can respond to that. So then we get into actual pairing with behavior. See, wow, I just saw my dog flick her ear. Awesome, she feels it. So when I push this button, when I push when I push the nick button, my dog feels the stim. I saw her ear flick. Awesome. So I'm going to start to pair these behaviors. Now, who's here for classical conditioning? You're here for classical conditioning. You're classical conditioning too. Yeah. Okay. So basically, we're taking a US, which is an unconditioned stimulus. The dog feels this thing. They feel the stim. It's unpleasant, even if it's very mildly unpleasant, the same way an itch is unpleasant. And you're pairing it with a conditioned stimulus, something that the dog already knows, right? So leash pressure is a stimulus. So what I'm doing is I'm giving the dog something that they don't know before something that they do. So if I give, I will go tap, pull, right? So my dog is out there. If I'm using if I'm using the come command, it'll be come, tap, pull, come, tap, pull, come, tap, pull, right? Tap referring to this short stimulation on the electronic collar. And my dog is feeling the stim, and then quickly followed by leash pressure, which lets my dog know actually what to do. And soon enough, the feeling of the stem, they realize, oh, they start to anticipate the leash pressure, and then you can skip the leash pressure. So then it just becomes come, tap, and the dog's like, I got it, run back, cool, right? So that's how we'll work through the come. Then we do the same thing moving away from us, pressure to a touchpad or to the bed. So there, make sure my dog understands leash pressure to it, the dog starts moving, awesome, great. Then I do tap, 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 leash pressure, or tap, leash pressure, tap, leash pressure, tap, leash pressure. And that gives us the second piece, which is pressure to the bed. Yeah?
Do you always have to use the leash?
For the conditioning phase, yes, I always use the leash. Yes. There are definitely methods to utilize the electronic collar without a leash at all, but for the conditioning phase, I always use a leash. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, either one. Jerry?
Yeah, so because you've already done this training with Sassy, do I still need to do the leash? Because she kind of knows what she's supposed to do.
You don't need to do this at all.
Okay. It's done.
It's for you to know.
Okay.
Yeah, just for you to know. Yeah, you don't need to do this at all. So this is.
You had a question.
Oh yeah.
Are you typically releasing pressure on the beginning of the follow through when you see that action starting, or once the behavior's been completed?
So in this situation, up until we get to here, the last bullet point is going to be the longer stimulation. But at this point, I'm just doing tap.
Like short distance?
Just tap. Yeah, and short distance. Yep, short distance and tapping. Yeah, so you're going to see us do this as well. When we'll do both of them. So, and with a novel dog or a dog that hasn't done this before. The question was, do we use stim until the dog has complied with the behavior, or just for a little while, right? And in this first situation, we're talking just one tap, or even if we're doing tap, 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 it's still not negative reinforcement. We're not leaving the pressure on for a long period of time. So it'll be tap, pull, dog goes to the bed, release for reward, right? But basically, you're just showing the dog that the tap shows up before the pinch shows up, right? And then they know, oh, I can beat the pinch by just responding to the tap. And then later they learn, when you increase the pressure, that they can beat both of them. They can even avoid the stimulation by just running to the bed and avoid the stimulation entirely. Yeah. Introducing longer stimulation for negative reinforcement reps, what you're talking about would be pressure goes on, ask for the command, dog complies with the command, release the pressure. Pressure goes on before the command, yes. So if my dog's over there and I'm trying to condition the electronic collar and to help them understand negative reinforcement, pressure goes on, my dog maybe does a change of behavior, or I'm confident enough that I know what my dog is feeling, right? I'm at a low level stim, I'm like, oh, she definitely feels that. Then recall, dog turns around, release pressure, reward. So it's working them back towards the reward, but negative reinforcement reps truly happen where the pressure that you're talking about, the pressure is applied before the command, right? So we don't do a ton of those, and negative reinforcement reps there can be fallout, there can be a bunch of different things that can happen too if you're using it too much and you're not using enough motivation. So we do like to teach it. We teach it at a low level for sure. We are never using negative reinforcement at a high level. So sometimes you're going to use the electronic collar at a high level. It's not going to be for negative reinforcement. Those are always going to be punishment based. Yeah.
So, sorry. What if
No, you're good.
What if it's, something like you don't want her to jump on somebody or surf the kitchen counter?
I got a whole slide for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get to that subject. The counter, the garden.
We got a while to go. Huh? Knees are like.
I know that feeling.
Okay. Here we go. We're conditioning a dog. Lex?
Do you
If you want to do pinch or slip. Okay, sounds good. So we are going to condition Alexis's dog Taro to electronic collar. The dog has had the collar on and off a bunch of times, has never actually utilized pressure. She's just doing other stuff with the dog, taking it slow. She responds very well, so doesn't really need it. It's just a tool that we will want to use with the dog at some point. And this will give us the opportunity for you guys to see it and show all the steps that we just talked about.
Is there an ideal age to introduce this to dogs?
So
Beyond once they know the basic commands?
is there an ideal age to introduce the electronic collar? I would say that I've done it in a variety of ways with my own personal dogs and with client dogs. I would say if you hit right around the 6 to 9 month age, in my experience, you have the highest likelihood of not having them be collar wise. That's the thing that's most important to me, is not having to use the collar forever and ever and ever. So the way that I utilize the collar, I try to avoid my dog being collar wise for my personal dogs for sure, right? And the way that I do that is by just like kind of peppering it in through their training throughout. But my dogs, similar to this dog, even if they're not on leash, even if like they're still responding at a very, very, very high rate because I'm setting up the training situations for them to be successful. So I don't put them in situations they're gonna fail. I have really high value rewards. I have dogs, like I get dogs who are really excited, motivated dogs, so that helps with this whole thing. But yeah, I would say 6 to 9 months old is probably ideal. Yeah. This is Taro. First, let's demo the prereqs. Do you need foods? Do you have foods? That's all you have? No, 2 pieces of food. Oh, okay. Do you want a pouch instead?
Sure.
There we go. And did you have a bucket?
No, I mean, it's back there.
Yeah. She's like, I'm on camera. Yeah. This bucket? Have you been using this bucket?
Yeah.
The plastic one?
No.
No, the rubber bucket. Yeah, usually it's a rubber bucket. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so if we we'll just demo a couple prereqs. So if she goes to, that's okay.
She's like upset about being in the kennel.
She's upset where?
She's upset. She's distressed.
Oh, she was in the kennel in there. Oh, okay. Yeah, just do a couple reps with her for food reps, whatever.
Target. Yes. Target.
Adam's like, I got it. He's got a whole like reel of videos of dogs like coughing up food. Yeah. What about yeah? Would she rather just like get on the box, for example? You think so? Okay, we can just use that.
She's really upset in the kennel.
Oh, she was barking and stuff.
No, she's just shaking.
Oh.
Yeah, you can see she's taking.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Oh, she's on.
Yep, she's peeing now.
I know this is exciting. Oh my.
How old is she?
Almost a year. A couple days.
Not into the bed apparently. It's all right. Let's use a different dog. Just she seems stressed. I don't also want to put her on the e-collar today if she's stressed, right? So let's grab Stella. Give her a little run in the yard. Let her.
She's gonna jump on the door.
Well, throw the ball for her if you're out there. Yeah, so that obviously not planned, but I wouldn't want to have the dog in a stressed out kind of situation and then go ahead and start using electronic collars. So definitely not the first choice that I would make. So, and she's got to poop too. Man. I didn't do anything.
Where you go, Carter? That's why your parents always asked you if you had to go to the bathroom before you went on in the car.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Take care of business.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna use a different dog that is here for training that has been here for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. So it's probably about time for her to get conditioned to the electronic collar anyway. So we'll go through it. We'll show you how we do that, and then hopefully we'll give Taro a break. Poor Taro. Any more questions so far while we're waiting? Questions for while we're waiting? We had a lot of questions last slide, right? Do we want to remind you of your questions? No?
Okay, so what if your dog has a electric fence,
Uh-huh.
and then you want to have the e-collar also?
Yeah. Okay. It's a good question. Well, she wants to get on the bed. So
Look at that.
Stella.
So prereqs are dog does what you are asking them with the leash only, right? So bring her off and put her in a sit right there, Cam. And then just use leash pressure towards the bed and see what happens. There you go. Okay, so that's all we're looking for. Does my dog understand directional pressure for this particular command, okay? Which is gonna be, or this particular behavior, which is gonna be on your bed, the way that we use it, right?
You're all for it, though. She might have you
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, so take her off. There. Okay, so next piece is making sure that the prereq for recall, right? So if my dog is out front, when I pull her back, does she turn around and come to me, right? So it's pretty simple. If my dog is out here, hey, she can say hi to me. She's saying hi to me, whatever, right? And if he pulls back, does she come back to him? Yes, reward. So if the dog comes out to the edge, comes out to the edge of the leash, and you pull back, does the dog go? Yeah, you can throw food on the ground. Just pull, and yes. Oh, looking for food. That's a power cord.
Yes.
There you go. She's wild.
Bounty.
She's wild. Let me see this for a sec. So, hey. So if because I think that she'll be more interested in going back to you, right? Let me clarify that. You give me a couple pieces of food. Got you there. So no. All right. So if dog wants to go back, pressure turn. Yes. Good. Oh my God. She's a lot. She's a lot. Dog goes out. Pressure. Yes. That's all I'm looking for. Dog goes out. Pressure back. Yes. Okay. There you go. And she doesn't know back, so we're not going to do that one, right? So it'll just be pushing out and pushing back. Okay. So here you go. Here's the leash. The electronic collar, we'll fit it on and show you how that goes, and then we'll look for a level.
Cam, is this your dog you're training with now? And have you done any work with e-collar yet?
No.
So this is like introduction, like how you would do it. Right?
This is how we condition, yep. So we'll start out, have it real high on the neck, and we will, we'll try to level set. So we'll take some food, we'll be sitting there feeding and seeing if the dog is paying attention.
No.
So,
Carter, are you doing anything with the remote?
yep. So I'm looking to see, first of all, so I turned the light on to make sure my collar was on. Little, and then what we'll do is we're gonna start out at level 1. I'll say there's a level 1 correction or level 1 stim. Highly unlikely my dog feels it. Most of our dogs don't feel this until 7 to 15 on these collars. This collar goes up to level 100. It's not exactly a percentage, but 2 is pretty low on there. It may not be 2%, but 2 is pretty low. And what you're looking for is maybe an ear twitch or, like I said, hopefully not like any kind of vocalization, or my dog should not be nervous or look scared or anything like that. And we'll freeze for a sec. That's level 4. Nothing. Level 5. Nothing that I saw. Did you see anything, Cam? No. And you just take your time. Go ahead, feed her again.
Do you typically do this in twos or is it one-on-one?
No, just one-on-one. Yeah. But freeze, tap, tap, tap. Nothing there. Right? Okay. Go to 7. Tap, tap, tap. Maybe. It's on that side. So we'll leave it here. Go ahead, feed one more time, and then we'll freeze. Is it on that side? Or is it on the other side? Oh, so usually they do look towards it, so nothing. 8. Huh. It could just also, and sometimes you're like, oh, she's ignoring it because,
You guys just never feed her while she's here. It's obvious.
yeah. 11, there you go. Okay, yep. So at 11, you're not going to probably be able to see it, but you can see a little contract. You can see a little twitch right here when she does it, when I push the button, which is potentially involuntary, right? But basically, it lets me know that the dog definitely feels it. So if it's a twitch, they definitely feel that. If it's causing a physical muscular twitch like that. So it obviously doesn't bother the dog. She's not like acting like it's painful. Nothing's going on that you would be like nervous about the dog feeling it. So then we'll do a couple reps of we may not even be able to really get reps of the recall if we can get her away from Cam, right? But we'll see. We'll definitely be able to get reps towards the bed, right? So and I'll hold the e-collar so that Cam can use leash and that everybody can see. I'll hold it up in the air. So what we start out with is you can start with an SIT right there, Cam. And you can just use leash if you want for leash pressure for a sit if you need to. And then what we're going to do is we'll give, actually, can I hook this box up? Is it already hooked up?
It should be, but it might have
Nice. So I've got this at level 1, so she's not going to feel it, just to... Cool, everybody can hear that? Okay, so I don't like using them too much because the dog learns the sound too. Not that it's not predictive because it happens at the same time as the collar, but I don't like using it anyway. So when you hear that, that means that that there's stim going to the collar. So we'll, as we're using, it's going to be hard for me to time it not holding it. So if here, I'll hold leash. You be my food hand for fun here. Okay. So it'll be tap and then pull, and then guess, reward. Nice. Okay. Sit. Good. We go tap, pull. Yes. Good job. Sit. Good. Yes. There we go. Tap, pull. Yes. There we go. Okay. So, and then can I have a couple pieces? When we start with, I don't do that a lot. First set might be like 5 like that. I'm not using the e-collar, conditioning the e-collar, right? The big difference there. So if I want to switch to, you love that bed. If I want to switch to practicing it on the practicing it for a recall, it'll be name, or it'll be COME, tap, pressure, right? So dog goes out, and if she does go out, just let her wander. Come. Yes. Good girl. All done. Come. Yes. Come. Yes. All done. Come. Yes. So it takes a little coordination. All done. It takes a little coordination to do it properly, but what I'm looking for is the word the dog knows. She's going to respond really quickly, right? And I'm just showing her that it's going to happen right after that, and it's going to tell you what to do. Here comes the signal. You know that you know the leash. We're adding something you don't know right before it. Eventually, the dog will anticipate that. That stim means the leash is coming after to give them direction, and they skip that whole thing. I don't need the direction. I know exactly what it is. I felt the stim. I do the behavior. Because this does not have a directional component. There's no ability to tell the dog, come over here or go over there, unless the dog understands the cues in the environment or verbal cues, right? So oftentimes people will just jump in and start using the electronic collar for all these things. Like, well, why isn't the dog doing all these things? It's like it doesn't tell the dog what to do. It only tells the dog that you feel something unpleasant. So if you use that clearly, you clearly tell the dog that they can get stimulation for certain behaviors, then you can use it effectively, right? But if it's unclear to the dog, it can be very messy, right? The next thing that we would do with this dog would be longer stimulation for negative reinforcement reps. And we'll do a couple of those for the bed. We're not going to do them for the recall because she just doesn't want to leave us, and it's kind of a jam. It's like just too jammed up right here. I'd like to practice it and like kind of do it out there, but we can definitely do it for the bed. So we'll do the bed. Cam will do the handling, and what we're looking for here is basically, because we have the box on, And again, that's down at a level 1, so my dog can't feel it here, right? When I was just checking to see the boxes on. And we're going back up. And by the way, that feeling, the dog showed us that she felt it at level 10, and we're doing this all at a level 8, which was probably an important part. But so I always back off a little bit, let the dog know that I make sure that the dog doesn't have like an adverse reaction initially. I can always do this again. Just do this again tomorrow, or do it again later today, right? And continue conditioning the dog to make sure they really understand it. I'd much rather have that than have the dog have a highly aversive experience and really feel like it's unpleasant all at once. So I don't want to damage any relationship that I have. Okay, so same exercise as the first one. You'll do a sit, you'll hear the tone, and then you'll go pressure to the bed. So dog is sitting, tone goes on.
Yes.
Turn that down a little bit. Tone goes on.
Yes.
So as soon as the dog's feet are on the bed, it's releasing. He doesn't have to say the command until after the onset of pressure. I know that's confusing for a lot of people, but that's what negative reinforcement is. So the dog is having a pleasant sensation at the end of all this. The pleasant sensation is the cessation of pressure. So when pressure stops, my dog has a pleasant consequence, right? So pressure goes on, my dog is in a state of slight aversion. I don't like this, it feels weird. I do the behavior, it goes away. So I'm escaping.
Yes.
And the most important thing that anybody here or on there can see is that the dog isn't having a very highly aversive experience. The dog looks totally happy, everything's cool. So I can condition my dog with a low level stimulation that doesn't seem like my dog is in distress.
Yes.
And what we would not know is, I wouldn't expect the dog to start responding to this in a very short session like this, that the dog would start responding and jumping on the bed when they felt stim. However, because we're using the box, you never would know if they're responding to the tone or if they're responding to the collar. So stim on.
Yes.
Nice. And we could leave the stim on for a longer period of time and just look and see if the dog noticed what was going on to see. So leave it on for 1 second and then go.
Yes.
All right. So if we were doing a recall, obviously the dog won't leave him, right? If we were out there and there was other dogs and kind of stuff of interest, the dog would be more interested in going around. And when we do this for the recall, I don't like to just hammer it over and over and over again. I would rather take a nice long walk where the dog was just comfortable to go check things out and cruise around at their own pace. And I would do both of these. Right, so I do both of them at the same time. Wouldn't do them at the same time. I would do both of these on one walk. I would do my tap, pull, and then I would do pressure on, recall, pull, pressure off. Did I confuse the shit out of everybody? No?
It's just
Does it make sense?
have to memorize it,
Yeah.
come, tap, pull.
Mm-hmm.
Tap, pull.
Yeah.
And it would be turning around and going, tap, come, pull.
Well, then it's not tap, it's pressure on. So it goes
Pressure
constant,
on,
yeah, constant
and then
pressure on.
pull. No word. Pressure on, pull, no word.
Oh, you're saying, no. You were correct the first time. If you're just talking about clarifying the pressure to you, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you could just do, you could just do tap, pull, right? But I do usually use the word first. So I'll say, come, tap, pull. Come, tap, pull. And then as soon as the dog turns around, yes, reward.
Right.
And
That's
quickly,
the short one.
right, and then, so maybe I do this 2 or 3 times. And then by the 3rd time or 4th time, I'm not using the leash anymore. I'm not using the pull. The dog's like, cool, got it. Know what that is. Yeah.
So, how do we practice this before we script the dog? Because the coordination here, I'm assuming I'm not gonna lead.
Not on the dog. Put it on your husband. Duh.
So you memorize it. You have to practice up here first.
Yeah, I mean, do it in your hands. Yeah, definitely. Write it out. I would say writing it out. Watching somebody else do it on video or watching somebody not do it, watching somebody do it wrong and being like, oh, I see what they're doing wrong. That helps too. You'll see, so there's these like franchise dog training places, right? Who are utilizing electronic collar stim in a very different way. A lot of times they'll do a method which is, I know that it is flawed in a lot of ways, although there are some results that you'll get from it with very specific dogs. But basically, they'll just tap every time they say a command, right? So they'll be like, sit, tap, tap, sit, tap, tap, sit, tap, tap, right? Down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, come, tap, tap, right? And it will certainly create an association, right? But you run a lot of risks in that. And the dogs don't understand the collar in the same way that dogs that go through a true conditioning system learn, right? So those dogs, if they really go through a conditioning protocol, I believe, have more agency. It may seem like BS, but honestly, I do believe that if you're using instrumental and operant conditioning effectively, that the dog does have a choice in there, right? I may be providing what the choices are, but he does have a choice, and I think that knowing that he has a choice feels better than thinking they don't at all. Hey man, it doesn't matter if you come or not, you're gonna get the stim. That's not a good way for me. I don't like that, right? So if you comply, there's no correction eventually, This is just conditioning to the collar, and then I can utilize the collar as an aversive tool for punishment or negative reinforcement in other places.
Back to the confusion part.
Yeah.
Are we getting to the same place
She's good.
by doing command,
Her good
tap,
collar though, yeah.
pressure, and a longer stimulation command with pressure? Are we getting? We did two
Yes.
separate, and we're getting to the same place. And the same place in this instance was the dog going to his or her bed.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, you're getting to the same place
Okay.
by a slightly different method.
Okay.
The reason why is because in situations where you are sure or you have an inkling that the dog may fail, a lot of times we're going to use negative reinforcement instead of the positive punishment, right? So if my dog fails a recall and I didn't set it up properly, my dog's out there and I say, come, my dog doesn't come. And I go ding, 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 and then my dog turns around and runs back. My dog hopefully learns something in that situation, okay? My dog hopefully learns that if they fail a recall, that they'll get a correction and that they should just come anyway. And hopefully in the future, my dog avoids that stimulation by just turning around and coming when I say come.
Okay.
But if that happens too many times, you've been to the previous couple seminars, right? If that happens too many times, what else could I do? What would that cause that we wouldn't like?
Then just to ignore you completely?
No, basically my dog could now associate the word come with pressure. So now my dog hears come and he goes, oh God, it's about to happen, okay? And that happens if you use too much stim after the fact, right? You can avoid that by using negative reinforcement and applying the stim ahead of time and then using the cessation of stimulation as your reinforcement. My dog did the right thing, the pressure goes off, and so then there's pressure on, and you remember the diagram, right? So it's so perfect. The operant conditioning one is so perfect for this or actually the classical conditioning one. So pressure is on, and as soon as my dog hears the word, he's like, oh, I can do something about this. My dog does the behavior that I want, and then the pressure goes away. So the word precedes the pressure going away, right? Versus the word preceding the onset of pressure.
Okay.
So you're still using pressure. You're still manipulating the dog through an aversive mechanism. But the outcome is pleasant versus the outcome being unpleasant, which is huge. That's a big, big, big difference. And you might think that it's unfair to give the dog pressure before they've failed the command, right? A lot of people feel like it's unfair to put them under pressure, but they didn't even fail yet. Why am I going to push the button if my dog didn't fail yet? And I'm telling you that it's another method for solidifying that command and behavior, right? So that comes into play too with kind of like emergency situations. My dog's sprinting towards the road. Do I take the time to call him and then see if he turns around? Or do I just start stim and then recall, and as soon as he turns around, I let it go? Right? Yeah. Sometimes that can be really valuable. And it could help you in the future. You may not be ready for that situation, and it's hard to set that situation up purposefully. But you also can, in that situation, you can be positively punishing the dog the chasing behavior. Say he's chasing a deer or something like that. If you just go stim on, recall, turns around, stim stops. Now I've potentially poisoned chasing deer, which for most of us isn't a bad thing because we're not like, running stag hounds, right? Like in the English countryside on our estates, okay? And you're not supposed to let your dogs harass wildlife as possible, right? So not the worst thing in the world to make sure your dog's not chasing deer, right? And then, but you're also not potentially like ruining your recall or causing your dog to like flinch every time you say come, which is bad. We don't want that, right?
So,
Yeah.
this is not the right time for these questions, just tell me. But, a couple
Might
things.
not, might be.
One is, I have to say, you guys did an amazing job. She really, really responds. And when the collar is on her, her behavior is different.
Yeah,
It really is.
it's a team effort.
However, the first time I had to tap,
Yeah,
I was calling her to come.
yeah,
She was by the front door. I wanted her to come in the yard. And she didn't come right away, so I don't know what I did wrong. It could have been too high up by
Yeah.
accident, or I held it too long. She froze like a statue.
yeah,
She wouldn't move. I mean, I had to beg her,
yeah.
right?
Don't you have an electric fence?
I do.
Has she been trained to the electric fence?
Yeah, she's
Okay,
been on it.
we'll talk about that later.
Right, but she didn't have that.
No, we're gonna talk about that
Okay.
later.
But then the other thing is, if she has it on, like I had company last night, so I told her to get on her bed, and she did, and I couldn't get her off, no matter what I said. Yes, I had the treats, finally I had to take it off and,
Yeah.
and coax her with treats so that she could.
Wasn't she was not, yeah, she was getting sticky on the bed here when we were doing it.
Was she?
Well, no, you were here.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we can talk about those, but the answer to the first question is on here too.
Okay.
Okay, so ye old contingency square. So if you've come to previous dog talks, you may have seen this or just seen it in general. But basically, the electronic collar, for the most part, is going to be it's going to fall into two categories, right? So we're talking about negative reinforcement, which is what we were just talking about there, and we're talking about positive punishment. So positive punishment is the addition of something unpleasant, right? Negative reinforcement is taking away something unpleasant. And so those are two things that we can do with the electronic collar. The thing is, there's other stuff sometimes that can go on in high rates of arousal. And that's where some of this stuff gets really tricky. And that's where some kind of like negative fallout, things like that can happen that are like relatively, or they're bad, relatively speaking, right? So maybe some trainers here. Any ideas? What can happen besides negative reinforcement and positive punishment?
If you're looking for desired behavior based on just the initial cue, like your command, only rewarding for that behavior if they do not need that pressure. Would that be negative punishment?
Well, I mean, like when you are using the collar, I'm saying when you are using the collar, what else could you do besides it goes in there when you actually are using the collar, not when you're saying I'm not going to use the collar. Like if you're pushing the button, what else could be happening besides negative reinforcement and positive punishment?
If it always is followed by reinforcement in some way, positive reinforcement.
So like there's potential for that. There's a lot of people that will argue that low level stimulation, if it's really, really low, that you can overcome the aversiveness of it. So it's just a little tickle, and I'm giving my dog a friggin' ham sandwich every time he feels this little tickle. It's like, well, eventually the dog could pair this little tickle with the ham sandwich. It'd be like, wow, he'd think like, man, this little tickle is not that bad. It's not aversive. And so could it be conditioned as a positive reinforcement mechanism, right? And for that, I would argue that it doesn't work that way. My argument would be that it would be a marker for positive reinforcement. So basically, it's a signal that means positive reinforcement is coming, even though it's only minorly, slightly aversive. It's not that bad. It's just a little bit. The other thing why I don't like to, or why I don't think about it that way, and why I kind of promote this other way of doing it is I like to make no bones about it and saying like, this is aversive. The dog is complying in these situations because he doesn't like what we're doing here. Cool. That allows us to put it in the square and not be like, well, they actually like it. Because even if it means you're getting food afterward, the feeling itself is very mildly, potentially unpleasant. So,
do you ever find it appropriate for dogs that have a negative association coming in to take a step back and do that?
yeah. So if your dog has usually we don't have to, but if we get a dog in that is that has been poorly conditioned before, like came from another training facility,
Like Ash, or button down.
some places where, yeah, if they came from another training facility usually, or somebody did their own training with them and they were like, yeah, I don't know, it didn't work out that well, right? Then we just go through the conditioning process again, and from a really, really low level, and then usually we can avoid that hypersensitivity. There are some dogs that have had terrible, terrible experiences on electronic collar, and then it can be really, really difficult. But what I'm actually looking for here is this, which is basically what happens when a highly aroused dog makes an association between the stimulation and an external motivator. Say I'm giving my dog I'm giving a dog stimulation who is highly motivated to eat other dogs. Okay, so I'm on a leash and my dog is pulling, barking, jumping at another dog, and I'm giving my dog a lot of stimulation on the electronic collar. What can happen there? Yeah. So you can actually create more arousal, and you can make the stimulation a cue for arousal. So now my dog feels stimulation and goes into a heightened state of arousal. And people used to do this purposefully with pinch collars and things like that in the Schutzhund, IPO, IGP community. And then some of them still do. They're using pinch collar in the blind with with the helper to get more arousal out of the barking and things like that. And some people use electronic collar in the same way. So they'll be like, stim, 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 go get the decoy. Stim, 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 go get the tug. Stim, 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 go get, right? And so there are things that they're doing there that are, it's confusing the contingency square. And then those dogs are very difficult to do things with the electronic collar later in other areas.
What are your thoughts on using it for negative reinforcement with drop for a dog who's highly aroused with drop? So then asking them to.
Perfect, right? So that's a perfect question. The question is, how do you feel about utilizing the electronic collar for a drop command or an out command when they are highly aroused for the item? So I don't like using it as a way to teach the behavior. So I definitely don't want to teach the behavior at all with the electronic collar. Out in itself can be a really complex behavior to teach, although when you teach it young, it's much, much, much easier. And I started out always with some type of reinforcement option. So some type of positive reinforcement option. So if you drop that, you get the food. If you drop that, you get another tug. If you drop that, you get a different ball. You get whatever it is, right? So we play the 2-ball game, and we use food, things like that, to try to get them more excited to let go of the first toy and move on to the second toy. Now, I can eventually put the electronic collar over top of the out, but I want to have a really good out first, because the thing that you're talking about is, or the reason why you ask is because dogs get so highly aroused around toys that are really toy motivated. It's my favorite thing in the entire world, that you can really quickly make the stim even more arousing, or they just bite down harder. And what you'll see is, and some dogs like basically freeze, lock up, right? When there's a lot of stim involved, and you need a lot of stim to get them to drop it, and it's not a taser. So this is not in any way a taser. Like, it is not gonna like shut down, like, you know, the creature. It's just, you know, kind of like increases, just makes it hurt a little bit more, right? So I very rarely use any type of really high level stim, and in the situations where I've seen it used for outing, it looks pretty ugly. So if you condition it first, you can definitely use it for outing, but I would want to teach non-reinforcement out with leash, and then pressure on top of it with the e-collar before I was just like, oh, I'm just going to use the e-collar for this out. Because the likelihood is that, especially if it's like a Malinois or Dutch Shepherd or German Shepherd or something that's just like loves the toy, or a pit bull, that you're going to have to use really high numbers, and it's not worth it. There's a lot of fallout there.
So could you go back to that real quick? So the danger zone there.
Yeah, danger.
All right, so I'm asking for a friend.
Okay.
My male shepherd
Yeah.
has responded very well.
His male shepherd.
Yeah, my male German shepherd has, we have a female as well.
Yeah.
But the male, we've been working with the collar for a month or a month and a half, and he's done very well. In spite of me, he's done very well with come back to me when we're out on a walk. There's a Roddy at the entrance to our neighborhood that gets my dog very spun up when we walk past. And my concern here, especially after reading this, but my concern all along has been I really don't want this to make my dog even more spun up.
Yeah.
Do we want to stick with the negative I know this is one of those things like you probably want to be there and see it, but it's a fence fighting issue even when we're on the other side of the street, and it's one big German dog that doesn't like another big German dog. But again, my concern is that I don't want to screw this up and make it worse than it is. So for the sequence of events here.
I just wrote that down because it's just going to take us longer to talk about it.
Okay.
And I do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's basically like, how do we utilize the electronic collar to help with leash reactivity? Mm-hmm. That's basically what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And the other one was from Jerry was e-fence. We're going to answer that anyway. Okay. The answer is very carefully, lots of rewards. Try to do it from a reward-based approach first, utilizing all of the other tools that you've taught your dog, turning your dog back to you, and only correcting with the electronic collar if you're absolutely sure that the dog understands that the correction is for failure to comply in a previously requested behavior and is not in combination or conjunction with the external stimulator. Got it? All
I
right.
understand that, but
Okay.
the big question
Well-
is you read all these things, because this is a really good question. I mean,
Yeah.
you read all these things with dogs, like when somebody says make them sit, make them go down.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, somebody
we-
else says,
you missed the dog talk on reactivity, but that one, maybe that would have been a good one too. We'll do it again. We're gonna start them all up again. We'll also probably offer, like, if you can manage to sit through a lecture like this, then we're also gonna probably offer them in like chunks. So like I'll do like 2 or 3 of them in a day and do 2 or 3 of them the next day, and it's like a whole weekend, whole weekend of learning and me talking. I'll need cough drops by the end of it. But yes, that is exactly the situation that we're talking about. That's bad. You want to avoid it. And the answer is you work at a distance, you create better healing, you don't go fight with your dog in front of another dog. That's like that in the gist of it, or like the shorthand is my dog is approaching another dog. They're potentially already having some kind of reaction or arousal, and then now they have even more worry, which is now I'm going to get in a fight with my dad, and I'm already in a big fight. It's like a whole mess that is untangled, this like web of snakes. It's like, but we can talk specifically about what I would do. It's very specific. Okay, so there are a couple of things that you can do with the electronic collar. A couple of things you can do as a dog trainer, or as everybody here is a dog trainer. You're training your own dog. You can create a desired behavior, and you can try to create less of undesired behaviors, or get the dog to do less of them. So with desired behaviors, you can create them with 3 of the quadrants. Okay, so that's what the little red ones are. You can create them with positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and you can utilize positive punishment for basically shaping them in a way, right? So it can create more clarity in those behaviors. We'll talk about exactly where that positive punishment fits into that. But for undesired behaviors, all you have is positive punishment and negative punishment. The time when you would use positive punishment in a desired behavior is like shaping for example, punishing a failure to stay. So I put my dog in a sit, my dog's in a sit, my dog gets up, no, correction, my dog goes back into a sit, and then we can reward my dog for being in the sit. We go back to the positive reinforcement side of that, right? So, there's basically, you can't create a behavior by punishing it. You can't create any behavior by punishment. The punishment is just gonna make things less likely to happen in the future. But if I'm trying to create a stay, the stay is the absence of my dog leaving a position. Therefore, I could correct my dog leaving the position and create like a stronger stay. Does that make sense? Okay. So they're not like necessarily like lined up on either side. It's just like kind of a grouping of things that I would try to teach my dog versus things that I want to stop my dog from doing. So we're talking about counter surfing, digging, barking. Just to jump on the counter surfing for a second, because you brought it up. Counter surfing, you can imagine now that we've talked about this stuff, is pretty difficult to use negative reinforcement for counter surfing. Like, how would I put my dog under pressure and then when they stop doing the thing that I wanted, right? So it gets a little bit, it's difficult there. In fact, I can't think of a way that you would do it. So you basically have to punish it, right? The best case scenario is that I've taught my dog to do other things in the kitchen like to get on their bed and to have 4 feet on the floor and things like that. They've been rewarded for a lot of that in the future, and they've never had access to a reward when they've jumped on the counter or things like that. But if they do, and I want to punish it using positive punishment, that's the choice there, right? You could argue that a long enough correction, like if I use the word off, for example, and like basically turn on stim, say off, my dog gets off the counter, and then I take away the stim. But then I'm talking about teaching off versus punishing counter surfing, which can be a little bit mixed up there.
So you say not to do that? That sounds like it could work.
I would say no, and then apply positive punishment. So just like no, correction, yeah? Instead of, yeah, that's what I would do for that, yeah. So
So you must have done something good with the no and the correction, because if I say no, now,
yeah, she's listening to you better?
stop.
Okay, good. Well, okay, good job, Molly. Yeah. So, and it doesn't have to be, to create a good association or to create a strong association with the word no, you don't have to be harsh, you just have to be consistent. No has to mean something. No means you're going to be corrected. The correction means you're going to probably have to go do the thing again anyway, right? May as well just listen to the word. So I'll tell you the ones that have been probably the most difficult for me in like coprophagia, which is eating poop. I have not found electricity to be particularly effective. I like some dogs that would like go grab would just like run up to poop knowing that they're going to get a correction. They're willing to just grab it and run away. They'd be like run away eating poop and like, under extreme duress from the electronic collar and just be like, "Arr!" But also eating the poop. It's just it's a wild thing, man. Did a whole thing on coprophagia, but basically like it's a strange genetic tweak. But the reason why dogs like to eat poop is because it was selected for, not on purpose necessarily, but it's been selected for many, 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 like thousands of years, potentially hundreds of thousands of years, that the ones who ate poop around like, whether it was villages or human encampments or whatever else, they survived because they could eat poop and they had enough of a food source and their body like works it out. Yeah, it's pretty foul for us, but they can literally like, there are dogs in, kind of like livestock type communities, things like that, whatever, that I guess maybe they can digest the grains and things like that like ungulates eat better after it's been digested by an ungulate, and then they actually get some amount of protein or something out of it. It's like, yeah, but they love it. Certain dogs love it. I've got ones that love it, that's for sure.
So is this trying to tell us on the right
No,
side?
no, not associated left and right. Just
No, as far as on the right side of this, like,
so these are just undesired behaviors that you could use the electronic collar to try to fix.
okay,
Yeah.
and then the ones on the left,
Yeah.
you wouldn't use the collar for?
No, I would. Yeah, I would. But you're using them mostly on negative reinforcement reps.
On the right.
On the left would be negative reinforcement reps. Negative reinforcement being pressure goes on, you ask the dog for a behavior, dog complies, pressure goes off. Yeah, so for example, healing. Jump down there. Actually, scratch that. For example, come. All right, so when you have two options in the situation that I'm talking about right now, which is you can start with pressure and utilize the pressure to help teach the dog that word, or you could say, my dog knows the word, and I'm going to wait until after I ask say the command, and only give pressure if my dog fails. Right? So those are your two options from the start. I'm going to apply stim and then recall, or I'm going to recall and then apply stim if my dog fails. Right? Now, other behaviors, like for example, the heel that I was going to talk about, there's a lot of different pieces to that. But, and you can think about how many pieces a heel has, and you're talking about it too, how many pieces your heel has versus how many the recall has. The recall may be more difficult because you're having the dog turn away from something they're highly motivated to go towards. But in a way, it's simpler. The recall is a simpler thing. Just turn around and come back. Heel is like, walk next to me at this rate of speed. When I change my speed, change your speed. When I move over here, move over here. When I go backward, get back into the position. When I stop, I want you to sit. If I take off running, I want you to find me. You know, if I'm holding boxes, I want you to heel. You know, it's like, it's all, right? It's very complex. So utilizing the electronic collar for that, there are steps that we want to take ahead of time. I want my dog to really know heel on leash before I teach that. Again, that's something that you'll find or that you may see that other, like, you know, there are like other training facilities where they'll teach heel with the electronic collar. I don't like to teach heel with the electronic collar. I like to teach it with the leash and then layer the electronic collar over it if I so desire later.
So is it like, because I can hike with he's like doing his thing, but then at the end of our hike, we have from here to the office to kind of get from off trail to our house.
Yeah.
And I'm healing him with that, and he's generally, like, I can do a button hook, he'll follow me, I can do a left turn, he'll follow me. Sometimes he'll just kind of get bored with me if we're just walking, and I'll kind of drift back a little bit. Is it alright to do like a verbal correction? Like, I'm like, hey buddy, come on, keep up, and he'll get back into it, or should there be a...
Be stem. I mean, if the end, you have to decide like how tight you want your behaviors to be. Like, you know, 2 hours into a hike. So you know, your dogs, the more tired they are, the more there's going to be failure, right? Non-compliance for sure. And it seems quite reasonable to me. So usually if they're back behind me, I don't correct a lot for lagging with the leash. I mean, with the electronic collar, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean,
Almost never.
I mean, it's probably not as good if he was on his leash, but he's drifting back, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, verbal is fine, especially if, I mean, that might be a situation where it'd be like, all right, well, a lot of people like to have 2 words for heel. Like you have a formal heel and you have an informal heel where the dog is just kind of like over here-ish. I had one when I was competing, I had an informal heel, which is just heel, which meant you have to kind of stay right here. I had a focused heel, right, which, where the dog would have to look up at me the whole time. And I had a contact heel. The contact heel, the dog would go on the other side and have to lean on me and touch me physically the whole time, be in contact. So if I step this way, dog sucks in, right? And people like to use the electronic collar for that a lot too, actually. But, you know, that might be a time when you say like, okay, well, maybe you have like another trail command that's just like with me. Come on, stay with me, you know, like, because if you've been hiking and stuff, like the dog's tired, is not going to comply the same way, and you can't really expect the same type of compliance out of them at that point. You know.
How quickly should you do the correction? So I noticed that I'll recall, and she'll be at the other end of the yard, and I call her. And she looks, and I can tell that she's saying, I think she just called me.
Yeah.
And so then I'll say it again and not use the correction with the collar, but maybe that's not a good thing. And then she'll come. I mean, she does. It's not like she
Right.
ignores me.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
should it always be right away that you use the correction?
if you're going to use it,
Okay.
yes. Because the more variance you have in your system, the less likely the dog is to understand what you're talking about. Yeah, or expect it. Okay, so we've been here for a while actually, so we're gonna kind of blast through a couple of these. But basically, with some of these things we've talked about, superstitious associations, that's when my dog just associates 2 things that I didn't think they would. So my dog's over there, I call him, he doesn't answer, I give him a big correction on the e-collar, he turns around and runs back, and unbeknownst to me, he's created an association with like that dog crate over there, and now he doesn't want anything to do with that dog crate. He's like, I'm not going near there, no way. And you're like, well, that wasn't it. It was the fact that you didn't come. but I didn't set up my training scenario, or my dog didn't know as much as I thought he did, and I created an association with something that I didn't mean to. That's dangerous, okay? It can be. Relationship damage and mistrust of handler, that can happen for sure, but it's not because of the e-collar. It's because of mishandling, right? So if somebody, I'm scared of using the e-collar because it could cause relationship damage. I don't want my dog to not like me. It's like, well, if you are clear about it, then it's not going to cause any more damage than any other tool that you could possibly use. General suppression, again, these are things that can happen if you use, like, go too hard, too fast, too much stuff. You'll see a dog that looks unhappy and be like, wow. And again, if you see these dogs that are these like kind of like the franchise dog training facilities, you're gonna see dogs that look like that. That's what all their dogs look like. It's like just kind of suppressed and like cruising around like that. Not like Stella, right? You'll see contact dermatitis that can happen, or basically, and rubbing or contact something or other, nicka, whatever it is. But basically, they could get a little bit of a rash, or they could get a little bit of soreness. They could even get like I've seen dogs that got really nasty things on their neck from electronic collars, and it's basically just because they got wet and then they ran around a lot and it just rubbed their neck raw, right? Now, people oftentimes think when that happens, they'll cite that, they'll take a picture of it, and they'll be like, oh, the e-collar burned my dog, and like stuff like that, and that is not what's happening. Can't do that. It's not strong enough to do that, right? The electronic collar cannot cause like physical lasting damage like that. Not with the electric stim. It as a physical thing that's stuck on your dog's neck for sure. And if you get your dog wet and they're running around with the e-collar on, take that thing off if you can. When you get back in your car, take it off. It's fine for a little while, but you do not want your dog laying around with like a wet neck and the e-collar on there like all day long in the heat. Bad stuff happens there. Overstimulation that can cause neuromuscular disruption, which is lock up or freeze. So you'll hear some people talk about it that way, which means basically and this is something that you talked about, you mentioned with the fence, which is, but it can also happen for a different reason. Unless you gave her a correction at a really high level, I don't think that's what happened, right?
She wasn't near the fence.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
I understand that, but I'm saying that's not what happened, not in your situation. What happened in your situation probably is a lack of clarity and the dog not understanding what happened. And that can cause the dog to just be like, what do I do? Which is different. That's a different thing, right? The dog just being like, what do you want me to do is very different than the dog being like, I cannot move because I'm in distress. Very different. Right. If you really care about this, you can take a picture. I'm not going to read through all of it, but basically this is a description of the dog, why they would actually freeze, right? And there's basically a disruption in the neuromuscular, so that basically they don't have the ability to act or to move, right? And that can happen, and you'll see dogs tense up, like I talked about. If you give a correction after the command a bunch of times, you'll see the dog hear the command and then tense up. And you'd be like, you can watch that, and you can observe it and be like, that looks not good. And then you go to a higher level stim, so you're like, oh, well, he's not downing. A lot of people, not you and not me, but some people will be like, oh, I'm gonna just go to a higher level, give the correction, and you'll see the dog kind of just like hunker down because they probably don't know why they really don't understand the behavior very well. And now they're just like buckling in for the pain. They're just like, all right, whatever. It's just gonna happen anyway. It's gonna get worse. So they just get, you'll see that when you're watching bad e-collar training, and that's why people don't like electronic collars, is because people using them like that and dogs looking like that. And you're like, I can point at that and say, that's bad. And it is bad, but it's bad dog training. It's not, the tool isn't bad, it's just bad dog training, right? And I promise that those guys or gals that are doing that are not great at using leashes or food either. You know, they're not good at any of it, right? It's not like, oh, they're just bad at using e-collars and they would be great dog trainers if they were just using food. No, they'd be shitty dog trainers. They're just shitty dog trainers.
How high above the conditioning level do you typically introduce, like, aversive?
It depends on the dog. A lot of our dogs are somewhere between 7 and 20 for like all of their entire stay here, and 20 could be really high for some dogs, right? The aversiveness of the electronic collar to each dog is very individual. In my past, long ago, I have had I had a bull mastiff that used to run off, and his family didn't have a fence and whatever, and so this bull mastiff would run off, and he would just, you could have it at 100, and he would not, unless he was, if he was not moving, he had 100, like a level 100 stim, and he was not moving at all, he would itch. And then that's it. But if he was moving, he wouldn't even respond. Wouldn't happen. So, yeah, and at a low level of arousal, like he would respond pretty well. At a low level, he would respond, but at like 65 or 70. Yeah. And a Rottweiler that was a pretty high number dog, like that just never even in the conditioning phase, that dog was at like 45. Just didn't feel it.
What's your solution to, I mean, I know that some people use 2 collars.
This is like, all these are like 15 plus years ago, so I like do things pretty differently now. I'm not 100% sure what would have happened with those dogs, but I think I probably would have been more clear with the leash pressure first. I think I would have utilized a lot more negative reinforcement than I used back then. I was using mostly positive punishment. Like, I'm only going to give you the correction if you fail, and not using the negative reinforcement side. I think if I probably had created the negative reinforcement understanding, it would have been more successful.
This
Okay.
is gonna see we're out of time, right?
Yeah. All right, Cam, you ready? Okay.
Whoa, I thought he was supposed to be getting shot, not Cam.
Oh no, I'm getting shocked. Okay, so
Nice.
yeah, we're just gonna play with this for fun here because I've never had a correction at level 100, but I feel like
The videos are going.
What?
The video's going.
Yeah, I feel like I should.
You wanna go viral or you're not gonna go viral?
I'm not.
Gotta be famous, man.
You put it on my neck? No. No, not happening. So what's important for us though? What, to put it on my neck? Yeah. No. What's important for us is basically there's 2 pieces here that I think is like valuable. One is like, this is the collar that he's got. This is the collar that most like dog training facilities and most people are using and like pushing out in the world right now. I would say, I mean, I'm not sure about the their sales structure, but I would assume that they make most of the e-collars that people are using. Besides like the Amazon, like really crappy ones that people just get at their house. So all right, so that's when I'm getting stim. But the idea here is, we want to see what happens to my arm when you give stim. So we're gonna do constant. What level are you at? 10. Okay, so go do constant. All right, so it's fine. Give me more.
20.
Yeah. Okay. A little bit longer. No, hold it down. Okay. All right. That's good. So I can feel that it's like it kind of goes up to my fingers there, right? And
Like a tens unit?
a little bit like a tens unit. We can let you try if you want. Okay. So let's go up 35 or something like that. So I'm gonna do 5 seconds or so. Okay, so just a little, like a little flick on the finger there, and go up. You might want to show him your number. Can you see the number from there? Okay. What do we got?
50.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so just a little, go ahead again. All right, go ahead. Okay, all right. So, but that's at 50. So, real honestly here, who's given any dog a correction at higher than level 50? Never gone above 50?
Oh, 80, but well, it's different. I don't use this.
Right. With your own dogs. Yeah, the highest it goes. Yeah. So 50% though, right? Okay. But right there, you saw my hand moving. So we're saying that basically, like we're having a serious muscle contraction there at 50. So like, how's that going to affect my dog when my dog is like running directionally, like straight away from me or something like that? And you'll see that again, if you like watch video or you see dogs doing that, you'll see them like they'll tense up, but they'll still continue going that way. So go up. What do we got? 80, 75, 75. All right, let's see. So we're looking at my hand. Go ahead. There you go. Okay, so go ahead. All right, so the hand starts to move. Do it again. All right, so the hand and my arm are moving now. Totally, like I'm not doing that at all. That's just my arm, right? So, got goosebumps.
You got goosebumps.
Yeah. Okay. So, and again, we talked about different animals having different sensitivity at the low level, right? So at the low level, they have different sensitivity. Highly likely, they have different sensitivity at the high level too. Meaning that some of our dogs could be experiencing something like that much lower level than that 75. So go ahead all the way. What do we got?
95.
Okay. Yep. Ooh, that's hot. Okay, do it again. All right. So it's crazy. It's like, yeah. No, I just said I was gonna do it, so now we're doing it. You know what I mean? So there's a big like, you know, I can feel that all the way coming down into here, changing how I go, right? And then so go down to about 50 again. All right, go to 50 and leave it on. Go ahead, leave it on. Okay, go up. 75. Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, so I lost control of the index on that one. So couldn't squeeze it. You enjoy this or no? You feel weird about it? No. Okay. Yeah. So the index finger lost control on that, right? So just for fun, go 100, 99. Just for a second. Come on. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. It works. All right. So the idea there being, anybody else want some of that? Nope. All right. Cool. Okay. So the unpleasant feeling of that, right? The unpleasant feeling is only a part of it. It is going right into the muscle. It's causing like all these stimulation issues that like they could cause downstream effects, right? So if the dog is unable to move, and you're talking about their neck, not their arm, right? If the dog's unable to move like that part of their neck, then like how could we be asking them to do like a down or a sit or whatever? So like that, and this is like it's not just for the people in this room. It's like obviously we're filming this and everything. I'll be putting that out, things about that, and things about pressure that I disagree with, and then you'll see people that are like frying dogs, just like cranking pressure up just to get them to comply with things. And they're like, oh, well, more pain equals more obedience or whatever eventually. And what I'm telling you in this situation is that with electricity has this other piece. You're using electricity. And electricity is we're not just applying pain, we're also saying it's doing other things to you, like stopping your ability to do an action, to do a behavior. So you may not be even, your dog might be completely unclear about something. He's getting stimmed over the top, and then he still can't do it anyway, even if he wanted to. He's just frozen in that position. So anyway. Okay, so again, I think we're gonna run out of time to do any kind of games, but we'll talk about stuff. Electric invisible fences. I don't like electric fences. Electric fences are not that great. Now, a lot of people have them, and a lot of people say, well, they're great for my dogs, but I'll tell you why I don't like them. The reason why I don't like electric fences is they don't stop other dogs from coming in, and they don't stop like other types of wildlife or anything like that from coming in. And in a high rate of arousal, they don't stop your dog from leaving. It just doesn't, right? So it's like any of these dogs or those two dogs, right? They can run out, or a dog could run in, whatever. This dog is safe. This dog is much safer than those dogs, right? He's got a roof on him. Right, and he may look like he's in a cage, but he's safer. That's for sure. And if you're gonna leave your dog outside unattended, I find that it is much, much, much safer to have a physical barrier fence. The amount of times that I've heard people tell me that their dogs blew through the electric fence, chasing a car, doing this, that, chasing another dog, or a dog came in. I've heard that a lot. Dog came into your property, got in a fight with your dog, or somebody was walking their dog by and your dog left, or their dog ran in, or who knows what. Those are the reasons why I don't like it. In addition to the situation that can occur where your dog gets confused about which collar is on and what my dog is doing. So we can speak separately on this too, but if my dog gets confused about my electric fence collar out in the yard, and I'm calling him back, and my dog gets a correction on the remote collar and thinks that he's by some happenstance walked into the area where he's not allowed to go on the electric fence, my dog's like, what do I do? I thought I knew it was over there. Now I feel unsafe. And the solution for that is a long line and practicing with a long line in the yard. That's the solution, because you have to be able to physically pull the dog back to you if he freezes like that. And I've had dogs where we're doing a session, we're out in the woods, or recalling, and next thing you know, the dog freezes. And you're like, how did that happen? And then you come to find out the dog had been on an electronic collar, maybe at their previous house, or this or that, and they didn't tell you about it, or whatever, and or electric fence. But it can cause the freezing behavior, especially at lines. So you'll see at like a sidewalk or something, you'll be like, the dog won't cross the sidewalk after we were training him on the electronic collar. We were doing a session on the electronic collar. Next thing you know, he won't go across sidewalks. You're like, what? Oh, well, the barrier at his house is a sidewalk. Because what the invisible fence training relies on is superstitious associations. Because your dog doesn't know that there's like this arbitrary line, barrier, or whatever. He's just like, sidewalk's bad. That line of bushes over there, it's bad. Don't go there. He doesn't realize that there's like a line under it. And he's not figuring that out. So you're relying on a superstitious association, which is tricky in itself, and always a big aversive response. The dog's getting lit up when they touch it. Bark collars are another thing that people use a lot. They use a lot a lot of trainers use them. A lot of dog owners use them. A lot of dog owners use them, and they've never even been to a trainer or talked to a trainer about it. And a lot of dogs are barking because dogs bark, first of all, right? And they may not even really have control of it. It's just that's what they do. They bark. I tap my leg. You could do all sorts of terrible things to me. In fact, I've tried to condition myself not to do it. I shake my legs all the time, even when I'm sleeping. So, if they don't have control over it, how safe, or how fair is it to be lighting your dog up? There's also a lot of different types of barking. So you may be fine with you're like, oh, well, I'm okay with my dog if he barks couple times when somebody shows up at the door, I just don't want him barking all day, all day, all day, especially when I'm not there. Like, well, how do you know if the dog was barking at somebody when they showed up to drop a package, or if he was barking just by himself all day? And if you're there, my preference is to use a remote collar and to give the correction as you see fit after you've given a command to be quiet. So I don't like using them very much. I definitely only use them if the dog's been conditioned to the electronic collar before, and sometimes then I'll use them, but in very specific situations, right? For example, if we have dogs here that if we think that they're gonna like hurt themselves by barking, like bark themselves hoarse or something like that, right? That every once in a while we utilize a bark collar for that. But there's problems with that, absolutely. Absolutely, there's problems with them. So not my favorite tool, although I have used them. We're not gonna do that, unless anybody wants to be shocked right now. Okay. So I think that, hopefully you feel like you have a little bit better understanding of electronic collars right now than you did before. Happy to answer some questions. I think if we could talk about the reactivity question. Does everybody want to know about the reactivity question, or?
I do.
Okay. All right, cool. I was just going to say we can just talk about it. But so using electronic collar for reactivity is touchy because of exactly what we talked about. We want to make sure that my dog doesn't associate the electronic collar pressure with the reaction, with the high arousal with the other dog. So I want to really isolate my dog from that situation while I'm training them. So that's where the training classroom comes in. I want to put my dog in the training classroom and teach my dog perfect, close to perfect heeling, and use the electronic collar in that area and have it be like perfect. Wow, my dog really understands the electronic collar and works for a reward. Does your dog work for a tug or a toy or something? Yeah. So for me, for sure, I'm using lots of that. Try to expand your training classroom to include your street and the street all the way up to that particular dog. And then I would go train 300 yards away from that dog, and I'd be popping the toy and playing with him, and then getting perfect heeling, popping the toy, playing with him, getting perfect heeling, and then I'd go 100 yards away, and then I'd go 50 yards away, and I'd keep working back and forth, and I'd let that dog bark at me all day, and that would be how I'm working like my dog through it, right? And then I wouldn't have a problem with that particular dog, but also I would have really solidified my dog's understanding of electronic collar pressure and toys for heeling. And then I'm just utilizing all the skills that I've built in this other place. We also do what we call moving focus. Moving focus meaning pay attention to me while I'm walking. So instead of just like walking with your head down like this, I want you to look up at me, and that can be created through a lot of different mechanisms. And do you have a focused heel with him?
Getting there.
So there's really awesome people that if you were interested, I think, so Forrest Mickey is like a good friend of mine and has a really awesome tutorial that I think you can buy it just one-off. It's like on heeling, focused heeling, and he's incredible. And specifically with heeling, that's his thing, right? He and Michael Ellis just came out with a video, I think, together that's a focused heeling workshop. I don't know if it's available just for purchase or if you have to be a member to do it. But anyway, I would definitely suggest that. And then, it's also something that if you can just build more focus, you can find a ton of people. This girl, Mia Scoggin, also, I don't know how to spell that, but, or Misha Scoggin, what is it? Do you know what it is? Anybody? No? Okay. She does a lot of really great healing work, but it all is going to go back to engagement. If your dog is engaged on you in expectation of a toy, he's not going to care about the dog if you've done your job of creating expectation of reinforcement. Yeah. So it's not there's no quick fix. It's like the dog is reacting because he's not paying attention to you. So get him to pay attention to you, he won't react. Then get him to pay attention to you in closer and closer proximity to the distraction, and then eventually you achieve more calm around distractions because he just doesn't care because he's been around it lots of times and paid attention to you. But if you go around the distraction and you pair that proximity to distraction with arousal, every single time when the arousal is faced the other direction, it's going to turn out badly for you. You want the arousal pointed back at you. So like he's looking at you, he's like, you got the toy, what's up? He's like, I don't care about that dog, where's the toy? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Kind of back to the recall and negative rate portion. Once you have that initial action of them turning around on recall, is that when the pressure's going away? Or is it?
Yes.
Okay. And if they fail from there, are you going straight to aggression or back to negative reinforcement, or does it depend?
It does depend. It's a good question. I would probably, it depends on the dog. The question is, if I recall my dog, we've got that part squared away. If I recall my dog and my dog deviates on the way back, they're running back, and then they say, I'm going over here, right? Then at that moment when my dog leaves, I could make a choice. You could go ding ding, just use basically positive punishment, a correction, or you could go pressure on, dog turns all the way back to you, pressure off. And depending on the dog and your relationship with that dog, you'll have to, there's going to be a little bit of figuring that out in the moment, which is how does my dog respond to that correction, and like how much do they want the reward that I have? I don't know. Like most of the time I would probably be using just like tap tap. I also do I have another little kind of like trick that I do, which is like I redirect. So the dog's coming in this way, he peels off this way, ding, 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 I turn this way, back up. The dog has to turn around, run towards me that way. So like I'm forcing them to make a full turn, not just like, oh, I just slightly deviated. I do the same thing if my dog's got their head down and they're coming towards me. I don't like to give a correction when the dog is moving straight towards me. So then I'll leave. I'll be like, I'm running over this way, and you have to turn to face me that way. It gives me the ability to utilize the collar to help clarify that to the dog.
Would your timing make a difference if you were to hesitate in making that decision? Would it? I mean, I guess it's pretty nuanced, but
Hesitate in which?
so if they deviated and it was already like a second or two since they were off path.
I don't do a lot of increasing pressure once I start it. So if I'm holding down a constant stim, I don't turn it and crank it up. Like if that's what you're saying. So like, and I'm like, oh, he deviated. I'm like, that doesn't work. So I do this. I'm thinking more of it like time under pressure. So if my dog's under pressure for 5 seconds until he turns back to me, then that's what he got. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to escalate pressure in the middle of that because you seem to be ignoring me. Usually at that point, I'm like, well, my dog missing a piece here. And then I might give tap, tap. Oh man, he ignored it. Turn it up, tap, tap, tap. Right? I tend not to do it with constant very much so. Yeah, the old school way of seeing if your dog was conditioned to the e-collar, or no, what level your dog was at on the e-collar. This is how it was taught to me 20 years ago, okay? So I'm lucky that I learned so long ago, like, you know, right? But it was taught to me 20 years ago that put the collar on the dog and you turn it on and you just go to constant and you turn it until the dog yelps. And then, so my early information on electronic collars, I used them a couple times, and then I was like, and I stayed off them for like almost 10 years. I was like, I don't really like that. You don't really need it. It's not nice. It's mean. And then I learned marker training and all my like behavior knowledge background, and then I started utilizing electronic collars again in a much more nuanced way versus how I learned about them.
Do you think it's important or necessary if you're mainly walking your dog on leash and healing
Yeah.
to use the collar?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, the leash is a much better tool for healing almost exclusively, unless we talk about some of these situations where where a dog doesn't respond well to a pinch collar, or like different things happen like that. If a dog has some kind of like neck issue or whatever, It's a directional tool. Heel is a very directional behavior. Utilizing the electronic collar solely for heeling, it can be tough. I like to condition the dog to also listen to the e-collar in heel, specifically because I don't want to have a leash on. But if I'm going to go on a walk in my neighborhood and I have to have a leash on for some reason, then I just have the leash on, you know? If I have no plans to teach my dog, you could have a great trail dog that does all of his recalls, and as soon as he comes back, I just throw a leash on him, and I heel him past somebody, or I grab him by the collar and we walk past him and I let him go again, without ever having to teach your dog to heel with the e-collar. It's fun to do if you want to advance your knowledge and practice some things that are more fun. But I'm never using it, or very rarely am I using it as a bigger stick. Sometimes if I have we've got a client right now who is quite elderly, and she is unable to give her dog physical corrections. Can't do it. So she has to use the electronic collar. She's going to have to use the electronic collar if she wants to give meaningful corrections to the dog, because she can't do it physically. So, and there are other people that's valuable for too. Yeah. Okay. Woo! That was a long one. That was a long one. It didn't help that we started late. Whew. All right.